Hello friends, AMYR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with a couple more mini Slimline cards, because I'm back on that bandwagon again. This is like my third video in like a week with mini Slimline cards, just cause they're fun. Anywho, I am using the just released Trinity Stamps Peep Show stamp set. I filmed a release and review video. I'm elbows deep in editing and footage and chaos as always. The plan is that video will already be up. I'll have a link to it at the end of this video. Yeah, that's the plan. So anyway, I have the solid stamp and I have some scraps of smooth white cardstock, and then I am stamping all of these with a rainbow of Simon's Pawsitively saturated inks. And I will have links to all the ink colors, but I'm using PEONY, Grapefruit, Sunbeam, Limelicious, Surf, and Violet. Just bright, cheerful, candy, spring colors. So after I stamped all of them, and then had to grab another scrap because I didn't have enough space for the pink. So stamp those. And then the little like face stamp, eyes and nose, I guess, is separate. So I put that in acrylic block and then stamp that with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink on all of these. And once everything was stamped, my method is I die cut these first. You could die cut after, but when I add the glitter and everything else, I really hate die cutting after that. It's a weird thing. I don't like the sound. It's like it's like an auditory thing. It just bugs me. It's not the same as like when you die cut glitter cardstock. That doesn't have a weird sound to it. But die cutting this stuff, it like crunches in the die cut machine. Anyway, there's one of my like neurotic things. So I die cut them all first with the coordinating wafer die. I had kept the like cardstock that they were die cut from. I put washi tape on the back and then I pop them all back into place. They don't need to be in order or anything. This is just to make life easier because this gives me something to hold on to when I do the heat embossing. So like I said, you could do all of this and then die cut them. It's just personal preference. So I did that with both these pieces and I had done it with the pink ones. I actually tested with pink ones because I haven't used this one product in literal years and years and years. I don't even remember how many years it's been. This product being the Judikins Sticky Stuff Embossing Powder. This stuff's been on the market for decades. Like, I'm pretty sure it existed when I first started making cards, and that was like 20 years ago. My container of this is probably 10 plus years old. I'm honestly not even sure. People have mentioned, like, I hear a lot of chatter about that saying like, oh, embossing powders, go bad. I have yet to see that happen to myself. And unlike, again, some of my powders are old, like old. This stuff still works though. So Judikins Sticky Stuff Embossing Powder. If you've never used it before, what I did was I stamped on top of all those images with clear embossing ink. It was really easy to line them up because it's a basic image. So clear embossing ink, something for it to cling to. And then I poured that sticky stuff embossing powder over it using a coffee filter just to catch the excess. With sticky stuff embossing powder, you melt it until it's clear and glossy, which is as fast as any other embossing powder. And then you immediately remove the heat tool. If you overheat this, you will literally see it turn matte and it will no longer be sticky. So you just heat it up. It turns glossy and sticky immediately. Remove your heat tool and then press into it your product of choice. Because we used to have like, flocking powders, all the different things. But for these, of course, I'm using Distress Rock Candy Glitter specifically because this stuff does look like sugar. And another side little note, if you weren't aware, I don't know what Ranger does to the rock candy glitter. They do something magical to it. It's not staticky. Because again, if you've ever worked with loose glitter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Loose glitter is the herpes of the crafting world. It's just everywhere. 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 And you can never get rid of it. Anyway, rock candy though is different. It's still a loose glitter, but it's not staticky. So anyway, after I'd poured it over that sticky embossing powder, I pressed in. You don't really need to press it in, but I just wanted to make sure I got as much stuck there as possible. The other step to note is after you've pressed in your glitter, flocking powder, whatever, into that sticky stuff embossing powder, is heat set it one more time. That like locks it in. That turns it to that matte finish, which you obviously can't see because it's covered in glitter, but it locks it in. Generally, if you don't do that step, you should technically be okay. But if you find that stuff's fallen off after, or it's not sticking very well to what you had embossed, yeah, this little step of just heating it up a second time, and I just do it for about the same time it would take to melt it, so literally seconds, and it's good to go. So I did the process the exact same way the second time. I re-stamped on top of all those little bunnies with clear embossing ink, coated them with the sticky stuff embossing powder, melted it, and it immediately turns clear and gets sticky. So after each one, I immediately move the heat tool on to the next one and then repeat the process till all of them are melted. You don't have to move super fast with this either. Like, my video is sped up a little bit here, but I'm not like rushing. You've got some leeway. I wouldn't leave it overnight because also like dust and dog hair and all that kind of stuff would stick to it, but you don't have to rush. It's fine. So then I pour the rock candy distress glitter over it, press it in just cuz. And again, like, I was even like looking at my fingers and it's like, yeah, it's just not static heat. How did they do this? I'd like to know. Because, I'd probably even use my other glitters more often. You can sometimes add anti-static powder to your glitter, but I don't like doing that because then you have that anti-static powder, Anyway, off topic. Heat set these after I got the glitter in them, and they're good to go. And like I said, you could do all this and then die cut them. There's something, it literally makes like a crunchy noise when you run it through your die cut machine after you've done this. And I'm just like, no. So once those were done, I just peel them off their little washi tape holders. And then I've got this little set of rainbow bunnies that look like they've been covered in sugar. Love it. This was so fun. I haven't used that embossed powder in literal years and years. I cannot remember the last time, but it has probably been, I don't think I've used it since I moved into this house. So it's been at least 5 years, and it's been a long time. Anyway, I then took more white cardstock. This is why I have the washi tape on my little guillotine trimmer. The edge of the washi tape just marks the 6 1/4 inch mark, and then I have a line on the washi tape that marks the 6 1/2 inch mark, because this trimmer only measures up to 6 inches. And for my mini slimline cards, I cut panels to 6 1/4 by 6 1/2 inches. And then I'm scoring them at 3 1/4 inches. So this will make a 3 1/4 inch by 6 1/4 inch mini slimline card. So I did that twice because while I got all my supplies out, might as well make 2 of them. So I scored these with my little Teflon bone folder, fold that over, reinforce that fold with the edge of the Teflon bone folder. And then after I did that, I pulled out all those bunnies. Again, I have the cards open. So this is the inside, what will be the inside of the card. And I lined up all these die cut bunnies just to give me a visual to kind of like for spacing, because I decided I wanted to just stamp the images again, just along the bottom of the inside of the card. So just laying them out just made it easier for me to line everything up. And I've talked about this before. Anytime I'm doing anything in rainbow order, I always start with yellow. It's especially if I'm doing something like this where I'm inking up solid stamps. Yellow is my lightest color. And this way I can make sure my yellow ink pad is always kept clean, because yellow likes to pick up other colors. I think I mentioned that in a recent video as well. Yellow is just, I've talked about red pigments and red colorants and how they are also beasts because they like to get everywhere. Yellow likes to just be friends with everyone and pick it up from everything. Like every random little color. If there is anything on your stamp, your yellow ink pad's going to find it. So that's why I always start with yellow. It keeps it clean, so it always stays bright and pretty, and I love it. And then I work my way out any direction with the rainbow. So I stamped all of these onto the bottom inside of these cards. using my little guides of my little die cut bunnies. And then I took a scrap of black cardstock and I used my anti-static powder tool on that. And then I'm going to ink up and stamp a couple sentiments from that same little stamp set. So I'm going to stamp those with the same clear embossing ink. And then again, doing everything twice. And then I'm going to coat these with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. So got those coated, tapped off the excess, and then I'll melt these with my heat tool. Once I've melted these with my heat tool, I'll just use one of my microfiber cloths to wipe off all that excess anti-static powder that's sitting on the cardstock. So melt those, let that cool for a couple of seconds, then wipe off that excess anti-static powder, and then the coordinating die set die cuts all the sentiments, which I love. So I die cut these sentiments with the coordinating wafer dies. So ran those through, taped the dies into place so that they don't shift when I die cut everything. So got all my sentiments die cut. And then I also die cut some white cardstock with the Trinity Stamps Mini Slimline Geometric Cutout Panel wafer die. This came out a couple years ago. I forget when. I'm pretty sure. I think I did like a St. Patrick's Day video using this wafer die. I like it. It's just nice. And I did it in white, so it gives just like a little bit like a texture and a pattern, but it's still tone on tone, so not to distract from the fabulousness that is my sugar coated bunnies. So to glue this in, simple. Just run the adhesive, which is my craft tacky glue, around the perimeter, and then I just add little dots to the larger areas. And that's it. That's all it's needed. It's going to adhere great. So I got those adhered to the card bases, and then all of the bunnies I popped up with just thin foam squares. Just again, just a little bit of dimension, nothing too crazy. So pop those into place with the foam squares, and I'm going to do the same thing with the main sentiment as well. I just put some little thin foam squares on the back of it so that, again, gives it all a little bit of dimension without anything being too crazy. So after I got those in place, got my sentiments in place, I'm going to adhere the other sentiment onto the insides of these cards. So the insides say squishy sweet hugs. Love it. So got those adhered. You could totally leave it as is. Like, this is fine. Like, this is fine. These are cute. There's glitter and rainbow and fabulousness. I love it. Of course I'm going to add bling, because of course I have like 5 bajillion, like multiple lifetimes, man. Multiple lifetimes of bling. So pulled up my Trinity Stamps rhinestones in a rainbow of colors, of course. And again, I'll have links to all of these. I've used these in so many videos. Like, I'm actually starting to run low on a couple colors. I'm gonna have to order some more. So put those all into my little triangle trays and had them all spread out, and I was like, oh, this is just like, my desk was so pretty. It's an absolute disaster. Like, you guys can see, I can't even keep the filming space like clutter free. I have so much stuff just everywhere. It's just a mess. But yeah, it's so pretty with, like, I was like, oh, I got these little rainbow bunnies and rainbow bling and just all this spread out. And I was like, oh, it just made me happy. So anyway, paired these with black envelopes. I mentioned this in a recent video. I love when I do like really bright, like kind of rainbow cards, to do like just a solid black envelope. Boring as heck, but then you open the envelope and it's like, ooh, rainbow sparkliness just smacks you in the face. Love. So that's my little mini Slimline faux sugar technique. I don't know what else to call this, because it really does look like sugar. Another option, if you don't want to do the sticky, I was going to mention this earlier, if you didn't want to do the sticky stuff embossing and powder, I was originally actually going to just use glossy accents on all these. It would have taken forever to do 2 cards with every single one covered in glossy accents and then pour the glitter over it. But that would work too. And you could get even more dimension with it. It's just an option. But this was faster. And yeah, this stuff still works after all these years. So, as always, I'll have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll link to the supply list. All that info will be directly below the video. Thank you all so very much for watching, thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!